So this way, blow up the shofar.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord.
Shema Yasha'ala Yahweh Eloheinu wa Yahweh Echad. Shema Yasha'ala Yahweh Eloheinu wa Yahweh Echad. Shema Yasha'ala Yahweh Eloheinu wa Yahweh Echad.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord.
We're going to recite in ancient Hebrew the Our Father's Prayer.
Abba Nawah, Shabbat Shemayim, Kadash, Hayah, Shamka, Yahweh, Malak Wafka, Taba'ah, Ratazaka, Hayah, Aisha, Barataza, Kawa, Hayah, Bashamayim, Nathananawa, Lacham, Kayawam, Wasalakinawa, Kawawakinawa, Kasalakinawa, Kawawabinawa, Wala'ah, Fabayinawa, Banasayawan, Abal, Hawashayinawa, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Amalak Waf, Wa'ala, Wata'aparath, Lawalamyam, Aman.
And in English,
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive our trespasses, as we forgive those that trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Let's go on there. Okay. Shalom. Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory to Abba Nawah, Yahweh, Bahashem, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. So I give all praises to God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But we say Yahweh in the Hebrew, in the name of the anointed Savior, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. So peace and blessings. I'm your brother Bishop Josiah, the overseer of True Hebrews Under God out here in Canada. And to my left,
Zaina.
my lovely wife holding down like always with me. So today, family, we'll be going over Daniel's chapter 11. So we'll be going back into the book of Daniel's chapter 11. So happy Sabbath to the brothers and sisters on Facebook. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Sabbath, and also on YouTube. Peace and blessings. I pray everybody's staying strong, constantly enduring all the trials and tribulations as, we go through in life. I pray that we all endure and we all make it into the kingdom to come. Khan? Hallelujah. So let's go to Daniel's chapter 11. So the title of the class, never trust thy enemy. This is very important, brothers and sisters, to never trust thy enemy. And you're going to see why, right? So this particular chapter, family, contains one of the most detailed prophecies of the Bible, predicting history over some 375 years. Just within this chapter alone, Daniel's 11, going over 375 years of history. This chapter is very detailed. So detailed that many critics who don't believe in the Most High or the Bible have insisted that it is history and it was written after the fact. That's what your Bible haters will say. But in the book of Isaiah, let's start there. Read Isaiah 42 and 9 real quick. So remind you, this chapter in Daniel's 11 going over 375 years of history. And it's going for all the brothers and sisters that have ever read Maccabees First Maccabees and Second Maccabees. Pretty much that whole long story, long chapters is a summary of it's pretty much Daniel's 11. So Daniel's 11 is pretty much just a summary of First Maccabees, Second Maccabees. And that's a lot of reading, a lot of history, a lot of different kings and so forth. So for people that would know. So go to Isaiah 42, verse 9 real quick.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 42, verse 9. Behold, the former things are come to pass, and new things do I declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them.
And you see that? So the Bible critics, they would say, oh, no, this happened, it occurred, and then they wrote it. It's not really a prophecy. It's not really, but no, the Most High, he tells us things before it occurred. You see that? So now let's go to Daniel's chapter 10. Let's just read off the 20 and 21st verse. Daniel chapter 10, 20 and 21, and then read verse 1 of Daniel's 11.
Daniel's chapter 10, verse 20. Then said he, knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee? And now will I return to fight with the prince of Persia. And when I am gone forth, lo, the prince of Grecia shall come.
So we know these is talking about spirits and demons, principalities, right? Wrestling not against flesh and blood, right? Continue.
But I will show thee that which is noted in the scripture of truth. And there is none that holdeth with me in these things, but Michael, your prince.
So the angel and is with Michael, the archangel, and he was the one that helped defeat the Babylonians so that the Medo Empire could rule. And then the Persian Empire ruled for a little bit over 200 years, starting with Cyrus the Great around 550 BC, ending with Darius III, also known as Xerxes the Great of Persia in 330 BC. So if you ever watched that movie 300, the Spartans, they go into Xerxes and so forth. So let's go to Daniel's 11, verse 1.
Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him.
So remind you, these angels are doing the work of the Father. So as each empire transition into a different empire, these are angels that's defeating completely the demons that's hovering over each empire. So Michael the archangel with this other angel that didn't give a name is fighting against Babylon, conquer them, strengthen them so that the Medo-Persians can come into power. And then as the Medo-Persians come into power, and the angels fight, and once they have their time to serve, then the Lord sent the angels to fight against those demons and boom, knock them, and then the next empire rule, showing you that the Lord, like it tells you in Daniel's, he's the one that sets up kings, and he's the one that removed the kings, right? It's all in his hand. Let's continue.
Verse 2. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the fourth shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia.
So, like I said, starting with Cyrus the Great, he was the king, the first king of the Medo-Persian Empire, right? And ending with Darius the Third, known as Xerxes. We just don't call him Xerxes. So, the one that the king of Persia, the fourth, shall be far richer than they all, and shall go up against the realm of Grecia. That was talking about Xerxes, also known as Darius the Third. Continue.
Verse 3, and a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided towards the four winds of heaven, and not his posterity, nor according to his dominion, which he ruled, for his dominion shall be plucked up, even for others besides those.
So what happened was, who took down Darius the Third of Persia, also known as Xerxes? The Greeks, but what king? Alexander the Great, right? So First Maccabees, we read this before, so we don't have to read it. So First Maccabees chapter 1 through 9, go into how King Alexander the Great, how he conquered Darius of the Medes, and how when they came into power, wickedness multiplied on the earth, right? And then he set up four, after he died, his kingdom was divided, right? So you were, who were the four generals? Anybody remember? It was the four generals. So after King Alexander died, he died in his early 30s. He only ruled for about 12 years, and then he died, right, of a sickness. So do anybody remember who the four generals were? So you had the four generals named Ptolemy, you had Cassander, you had Seleucus, and then you had Lysimachus. So these are the names of the four generals that was set up after Alexander had died. Read verse 4 again.
And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided towards the four winds of heaven, and not his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others besides those.
So not among his prosperity. So after Alexander's death, he had people that could inherit the throne that actually was his blood descendants. So he had a half brother named Philip, which had like a mental illness. And then you had his son. He had a son by his wife, Alexander. Even though he was a homosexual, he still had a wife. That most down low people do, or people that's open do. His wife name was Roxanne, and he had a son by her. And he also had another son named Hercules, and they call him illegitimate or whatever. So the Macedonian general accepted his son and brother as joint kings, but in 316 BC, one of the generals, General Cassander, he killed Alexander's wife, he killed his son, and he killed his half brother, and took the title King of Macedonia. So you see how even your own people can come up against you once you no longer alive, or when you're weakened. So his own guy that he was grew up in, he got killed his wife and his son, and because they had no heir to the throne, he became the king. Right? Let's continue. So from verse 5 all the way to verse 20 is dealing with the king of the north. You're always going to hear about the king of the north. You will find out that that's talking about the Seleucid Empire, which ruled from Syria. And then you hear about the king of the south, which is the Ptolemy Empire, which was ruling from Egypt. So the south is Egypt, Ptolemy dynasty. The north is the Seleucid Empire, is the king of the north. So those are the two empires. And they was warring against each other for over 130 years, fighting between each other, trying to take over the land of Jerusalem. A lot of the time it was fighting over, because a lot of people, they're so greedy, they have their land, they want more. So they wanted Egypt. The king of the north wanted the king of the south land. The king of the south wanted the king of the north land. And then it was wanting definitely, which was in the middle, Syria here, Egypt here. In order to get from Syria to Egypt, you got to pass through what? Jerusalem, Israel, which is in the middle. So they was trying to conquer Israel and have control. So it was a back and forth between sometimes the king of the south will have control over Israel, and then here come the king of the north will come and conquer and then take control over Israel. So these two dynasties fighting for over 130 years, right? Let's go to verse 5.
And the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. And in the end of years they shall join themselves together. For the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. But she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand, nor his arm, but she shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that begot her, and he that strengthened her in these times.
So read verse 5, my queen.
And the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion.
So the king of the south is referring to who?
The Seleucid or the Egyptian.
Ptolemy dynasty, ruled by Ptolemy the first of Egypt. And he also had control over Jerusalem. So this was like the first white pharaoh of Egypt, right? The first white pharaoh between 323 BC to 285 BC. So Ptolemy the first had a prince, right, named Seleucus, who took control over the region of Syria. And then that's what became known as the Seleucid dynasty, right? But he was actually under the king of the south, but he wanted his own power. So he formed the Seleucid dynasty in Syria, and he became a greater dynasty than the Ptolemy dynasty. And then verse 6.
And in the end of the years they shall join themselves together, for the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement.
So they try to have like a peace treaty between the two, right? Continue.
But she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand nor his arm, but she shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that begot her, and he that strengthened her in these times.
So both of these empires having a peace treaty between each other, between the two. It always starts off with peace, right? Mm-hmm. But then sudden destruction comes. What? Jealousy, envy, right? So this was fulfilled in the marriage between Antiochus II of the Seleucid Empire and Bernice, the daughter of Ptolemy II. So Antiochus II married Ptolemy's daughter Bernice. And once Bernice's father died, which was Ptolemy II, her husband Antiochus II put her away and took back his first wife, Laodicea. And when Laodicea didn't trust her husband Antiochus II, so she had him poisoned. And his wife Laodicea had Bernice and her son and her servants killed, and made her son Seleucus II king of the Seleucid dynasty. So she must have got back at him. She was like, "Oh, you gonna divorce me or whatever and leave me for this woman because you're trying to have a peace treaty between two empires? Okay, I'm gonna get back to you." So once she find opportunity, and then her husband married her back, because he was pretty much saying, like, your father's dead, so there's no point for me to keep up this agreement. right? So I'm about to go back to my other wife. I liked her better anyway, right? I don't know why I left her, So, and she's like, he took back his wife. But the wife was like, oh, no, I don't trust you no more. You gonna do that to me because you want to have a peace treaty between this man I don't even know? Okay, I'm gonna poison you. So she killed his wife. They had a child together. So she put her son as the heir to the throne of the Seleucid dynasty. Verse 7.
But out of a branch of her root shall one stand up in his estate, which shall come with an army, and shall enter into the fortress of the kings of the north, and shall deal against them, and shall prevail.
So you had Ptolemy the third, who was the brother of Bernice, avenging the murder of his sister, was against the king of the north, and he won. So pretty much he was like, okay, you killed my sister, dealing with the king of the south. I'm about to take vengeance on you. So now this brother, Ptolemy the third, who is now king of the Seleucid dynasty, is warring up against the king. The Ptolemy third, which is the king of the south, is warring up against the king of the north for killing his sister, for them having the sister killed, and he won. Continue.
And also carry captives into Egypt their gods, with their princes, and with their precious vessels of silver and gold. And he shall continue more years than the king of the north. So the king of the south shall come into his kingdom, and shall return into his own land.
So for Ptolemy the third, he robbed Syria. He took all the gold, their silver, their gods, and brought it back to Egypt, right? And then Seleucus the second died around 222 BC of a natural cause. But it said that one king should live longer than the other. Ptolemy the third died 4 years later, around 218 BC. So obviously the Ptolemy was the one that the Bible is referring to that should live longer than the other. So once Ptolemy died in 218 BC, his elder son Ptolemy the fourth became king. So that's why when you read in First Maccabees or Second Maccabees, and they're talking about Antiochus or they're talking about Ptolemy, and you might be thinking to talk about the same person. No, it's just mentioning Antiochus or Ptolemy, but that's actually dealing with a lot of, like I said, 300 something years of history. So it's different descendants of that man, Ptolemy the first and Seleucus the first. So it's different descendants taking on their name, but the Bible is not going to tell you they're the first, they're the second, they're the third, they're the fourth, right? Continue.
Verse 10. But his son shall be stirred up, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces, and one shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Then shall he return and be stirred up, even to his fortress.
So Seleucus the second died, and his elder son Alexander, who took the name Seleucus the third, became king and was killed a few years later. So Seleucus the second, youngest son, Antiochus the third, also known as Antiochus the Great, became king. And Antiochus the Great took back the Holy Land from the dominion of the Ptolemy dynasty. So he reminds you, this is a whole war between who want to get control over Israel. That's what it was all about, getting Jerusalem, getting our people and having power over us. So these two friends becoming rival enemies, and now their descendants are fighting. So that's why Daniel's 11 is dealing with damn near 400 years of history, because you see how one man problem can go lead all the way from hundreds and hundreds of years of fighting. You see, that's like remind me of, like, for instance, the Bloods and the Crips, where these people was beefing at one point in time, and now a bunch of other people are involved that had nothing to do with it. And that's what was happening. And now there's a bunch of killing and a bunch of robbing that's going on, and it's still going on for years, right? So that's why it's crazy how one man beef with another man can lead to 375 years of problems. So let's go to verse 11. Oh, so read verse 10 again, my queen.
But his sons shall be stirred up, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces. One shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Then shall he return and be stirred up even to his fortress.
So you see how I said the son, so more than one. So remind you, you had the kingdom of the Cassander, which consists, like he had power over the Macedonia and most of Greece. Then you had the kingdom of Lysimachus, which ruled over present-day Turkey. Then you have the kingdom of Seleucus, which he ruled over present-day Iran, Iraq, Syria, and parts of Central Asia. And then you have the kingdom of Ptolemy the first. He ruled over Egypt and neighboring regions, right? So read verse 11.
And the king of the south shall be moved with choler, and shall come forth and fight with him, even with the king of the north. And he shall set forth a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into his hand.
So what happened was, this was fulfilled when Antiochus III, also known as Antiochus the Great, was defeated at the battle of Raphia. The king of the north, which is Antiochus the Great, lost in battle against Ptolemy the Fourth, and the king of the south regained back Jerusalem, the Holy Land. So the king of the north army was bigger than the king of the south, but it ended up still being defeated. Continue, verse 12.
And when he had taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many 10,000, but he shall not be strengthened by it.
So Ptolemy the Fourth killed tens of thousands of soldiers and became very prideful and thought he was unstoppable. But he was soon be humbled by the bigger army of the Seleucus dynasty, because the Seleucus dynasty came up to war against Ptolemy he had a bigger army. That goes to show too, it doesn't matter how many more people you have, it matters who's in your army, right? Think about the Spartans. The Spartans only had 300, and they went to war against hundreds of thousands, and guess what? They still won, right? So he was like, okay, obviously he came with a big number and he got conquered. Obviously he's not gonna give up. What do you think he's gonna do? And do what? Get more people. That's what I would do. I'm like, okay, you're gonna beat me up like that. Okay, I'm gonna go get more homies, right? And you're gonna go get some more people, right? That's what happens. They're like, okay, you're gonna kill all my soldiers. Okay, I'm about to re-up, right? Continue.
Verse 13. For the king of the north shall return, and shall set forth a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come after certain years with a great army and with much riches.
You see that? So Antiochus the Third, known as Antiochus the Great, he came back deeper. Came back deep, and he invaded Egypt again. But guess what? This time he was successful. So he gained the final control over the armies of Ptolemy the Fourth and over now the Holy Land. So now they regained that power over Jerusalem. Continue.
Verse 14. And in those times there shall many stand up against the king of the south. Also robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish the vision, but they shall fall.
You always got wicked people amongst our people, right? Go ahead.
So the king of the north shall come and cast upon a mount and take the most fenced cities, and the arms of the south shall not withstand, neither his chosen people, neither shall there be any strength to withstand. But he that cometh against him shall do according to his own will, and none shall stand before him. And he shall stand in the glorious land, which by his hand shall be consumed.
So the Jews living in the Holy Land, check this out, family. They helped Antiochus III defeat the king of the south. This was because the Jews hated the way Ptolemy treated them. So they put their faith in man. Cursed be a man that put their trust in man. They make flesh their arm. So they put trust not in the Most High, but in men. So Ptolemy, the Jews didn't like how Ptolemy treated them. So they put their faith in man and made alliances with Antiochus the Great. So after, check this out, So after Antiochus the Great, the third, won the war against Egypt and no longer needed the Jews' help, what do you think happened? They made war against the Jews. That's why in the book of Sirach, chapter 12, verse 10, it says, never trust thy enemies. Never trust them. So they're like, oh, we don't like the way, we don't. It's kind of like, it's crazy because you got two people trying to gain power over your land. It's like, oh, he's a worse slave master than the other one, so I'm gonna side with him because he's a little bit more nicer slave master.
It's like the whole thing with Trump and Biden.
Yeah, exactly. Like, which slave master is better? Let me, you know what I mean? That's crazy. But that's how people was thinking. So they side with the Seleucus dynasty, with Alexander the Great, and fought against Ptolemy. And once Ptolemy got conquered, now he's like, okay, thank you, Jews. Now I'm about to put y'all in hell. Right? Continue.
Verse 17. He shall also set his face to enter with strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him. Thus shall he do. And he shall give him the daughter of women, corrupting her, but she shall not stand on his side, neither before him.
So Antiochus III gave his daughter Cleopatra to Ptolemy V of Egypt. He did this hoping to gain trust and popularity in Egypt. So like I said, just because you hear about Cleopatra and so forth in Egypt, there's history of time, there's parts of history where you had other nations ruling Egypt, not just the original Black Egyptians. So when you see images or people that saying these particular people were so-called Caucasians or different names, that's because the Greeks had their hand in Egypt and they, once ruled in Egypt. You see what I'm saying? So not every pharaoh or person that ruled Egypt, we should say king that ruled Egypt throughout all history was always Black, because you had other, like today, who's ruling Egypt now? Arabs. So if they start painting their pictures and painting their images and building sculptures and stuff of them, 200 years later, guess what? They're going to say the Egyptians was Arabs. It's the same thing, you see? So all throughout history, whoever came into power, obviously they're going to, cover up things or, put themselves, and make images of them, right? So Antiochus III, he gave his daughter to Cleopatra, his daughter Cleopatra, to Ptolemy V. He was trying to win over Egypt, right? So he thought his daughter would be on his side and help him take down her husband, Ptolemy V. But she didn't. So after Ptolemy V died, so after her husband died, Cleopatra and her son Ptolemy VI ruled Egypt instead of allowing her father Antiochus the Great to take over Egypt. So he put her, he had his daughter marry Ptolemy V, thinking, okay, I'm gonna sneak my way into ruling, when she pretty much dissed her own father. Her husband died, and she put her and her son as the king. And they like, okay, Pops, we can have peace or whatever, but I'm the queen of Egypt. And this is now one of the first time you have now a so-called white person as the queen of Egypt, right? As a pharaoh, because all the other Black pharaohs in ancient times were Black, right? Continue.
Verse 18. After this shall he turn his face unto the isles, and shall take many, but a prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease without his own reproach. He shall cause it to turn upon him. Then shall he turn his face towards the fort of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found. So
Antiochus III waged war against the Roman Republic, beginning in the mainland Greece in the autumn of the year of 192 BC. So before being decisively defeated at the Battle of Magnesia, Antiochus III turned his attention towards the areas of Asia Minor, which is modern day Turkey. in Greece, and he was helped by one of a major figure in the history, which was actually our people, Hannibal. You ever heard about Hannibal? Rode on the elephant, right? Coming from North Africa. He's actually was helping Antiochus III fight against these other nations, our own people, right? But a Roman general by the name of Lucius Cornelius defeated Antiochus in Greece and his armies. And Antiochus planned to humiliate. He was planning on humiliating Greece, but he was humbled and humiliated instead. So he returned to his land, his region, Syria, and having lost all that he gained, he ended up dying shortly after. Let's continue. You see what I tell y'all? It's a lot of history, 300 and something years of history summed up into 45 verses. Let's continue.
Verse 20. Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom, but within a few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle.
So Seleucus III, eldest son, Antiochus the Great, sought to tax his dominion and also the land of Israel. So Seleucus III, which is the eldest son of Antiochus the Great, he was like, okay, I'm at, my father lost everything in the war. I need to make some more money. Yeah. So now he's trying to tax his land and also tax the land of Israel, right? To increase his revenue. He's trying to make some money back. But he only ruled for a little bit. And he was poisoned, and then he died. The Bible's perfect, boy. I'm telling you, see how the Bible link up with history. That's why the people, when they read this, like, no, this happened, history happened, and then they wrote it to make it seem like it was a prophecy. No, the Bible, that's how the Most High is. He tells us things before it occur, right? And the Lord would do nothing but reveal his secrets unto the servants, the prophets, right? And that's what he did. So what verse we at?
20.
Verse 21. So from verse 21 all the way to verse 45, this is referring to a particular man. Let me see if y'all can guess who it is. Read verse 21, my queen.
And in his estate shall stand up a vile person to whom they shall not give honor to the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries.
So who is that? Who is that vile, wicked person that came out of the Seleucid dynasty, was the worst of the worst, who made war with Israel the worst? What was that man? You said it earlier, Hawaii.
Alexander Great.
No.
First one. I forget that.
Let's go to First Maccabees chapter 1. Let me refresh your memory. First Maccabees chapter 1. So verse 21 all the way down to the end of the chapter is all dealing with a particular man, a wicked man. First Maccabees 1 and 10. Who is that wicked man?
The book of First Maccabees in the Apocrypha, chapter 1, verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root.
A vow means wicked. Go ahead.
Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes.
Surname Epiphanes. Do y'all know what Epiphanes mean? So pretty much he called himself Antiochus Epiphanes, which means God manifested. Another word, God in the flesh. Blasphemy. Continue.
Son of Antiochus the king.
So that Antiochus was referring to Antiochus the Great, which is Antiochus the Third. So he had his son, which is now Antiochus the Fourth, also known as Antiochus Epiphanes. Continue.
Who had been hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 130th and 7th year of the kingdom of the Greeks.
So this is 170 years have already passed of the Greeks ruling. You see how much history already just about to pass? He's coming into power. The Greeks already been ruling for 170 years. Now he's coming to power. So, but he wasn't supposed to be the king. Because guess what? Antiochus Epiphanes was not the rightful heir to his father's throne. Even though his father was supposed to be the king, he is the king. How do it supposed to work with kingship? The bloodline, but who? If you have many sons, who's supposed to be there?
The eldest.
The oldest, the elders, right?
Mhm.
So this wicked man, he murdered his older brother, the king,
Mhm.
and had his son, which supposed because he murdered his older brother, but his older brother had a son. So this is what happened. So he murders his brother, and he put his nephew in prison in Rome. And he bribed his way to the throne. Different empires, he was bribing them. He bribed Rome. He bribed different countries to become king. That's why it says,
But he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries.
that's talking about Antiochus Epiphanes. He wasn't supposed to be the king, but he flattered his way. He came in peacefully, deceitfully, right? The war, like the book of Psalms says, was in his heart. Let's continue.
Verse 22. With this, the arms of a flood shall be overthrown from before him, and shall be broken. Yea, also the prince of the covenant. And after that, the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. He shall enter peaceably, even upon the fattest places of the province, and he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey and spoil and riches. Yea, he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds even for a time.
So he did things that his forefathers couldn't do. Now he's conquering lands. Now he's taking over Jerusalem from a period of time. Continue.
And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army.
So now he's warring up against who? Ptolemy, right? Continue.
And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army, but he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him. Yea, they shall feed of the portion of his meat, shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. Verse 27. And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper. For yet the end shall be at the time appointed.
Now let's go to 1 Maccabees chapter 1. So now King Antiochus Epiphanes is warring against the king of the south. So let's see what happened. 1 Maccabees 1, verse 16 through 19. What occurred? 1 Maccabees 1, 16 through 19.
The book of 1 Maccabees in the Apocrypha, chapter 1, verse 16. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion of 2 realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof.
You see that, family? So he warred up against Egypt and won. He did what his forefathers couldn't do. He spoiled Egypt. And now, let's see what happens. Go verse 28.
Daniel's chapter 11, verse 28. Then shall he return into his land with great riches. And
So he robbed Egypt, returned to his land with great riches.
And his heart shall be against the holy covenant.
Why is he focused on Israel? He just came up on Egypt, all the gold and stuff that's in there. And now he turned against the holy covenant. Continue.
And he shall do exploits and return to his own land.
So after Antiochus defeats Egypt, he set his heart on the Jews. So he set up wicked priests like Jason, who Not that Jason. I ain't doing that. I'm new here. This is my first time. So Antiochus defeated Egypt. He set up a wicked priest by the name of Jason, who introduced Greek customs to the Jews. You can find this. We don't have to read it, but you can find this. We'll just read a little bit of it. 2 Maccabees chapter 4. We'll just read a little bit of it. 2 Maccabees chapter 4. So you see, it's always our people being set up. You always got sellouts. Check this out. Look at what happened. Our people so wicked, boy.
I'll do 7 to 10.
Yes. 2 Maccabees chapter 4, 7 through 10.
The book of 2 Maccabees in the Apocrypha, chapter 4, verse 7. But after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be high priest, promising unto the king by intercession 360 talents of silver, and of another revenue 80 talents. Verse 9. Besides this, he promised to assign 150 more if he might have a license to set him up a place for exercise and for the training up of youth in the fashions of the heathen, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of Antiochians, which when the king had granted, and he had gotten into his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to the Greekish fashion.
You see this, family? You see what happened? This wicked priest, Jason, his brother's already priest, Onias. This man's like, yo, guess what? I'll be a better slave than my brother. I give you more money. So he gave him more money. And he was like, yo, he told the king, build some exercise so that I can train up these young Jews into Greek ways. And verse 10 says, which when the king had granted, he had got into his hand the rule, and forthwith brought his own nation to the Greekish fashion. That's how our people became Hellenized. You had sellouts amongst the Jews that wanted, and these are supposed to be the priests, the high priests. You're supposed to be the righteous of the righteous. And this high priest, or this man that's a descendant of Aaron, is saying, I want to be high priest. I do better than my older brother. I'll pay you some good money, and I will make sure all the Jews follow Greek customs. And that's when our people became Hellenized. So you had two different types of Jews living in Jerusalem at this particular time. You had the Jews that followed the ways of the Lord, and then you had the Jews that adopted Greek customs and was telling all the other people to follow the Greek way. It's better. We have peace amongst Antiochus Epiphanes, which is God in the flesh. And now you understand, before the New Testament comes in, you have to understand this history to understand there's no difference between no Jew nor Greek. They're all the same. They're one and the same, right?
Let me continue on that. Verse 11. And the royal privileges granted of special favor to the Jews by the means of John the Father, Eupolemus, who went ambassador to Rome for amnesty and aid, he took away, and putting down the governments which were according to the law, he brought up new customs against the law.
So they're trying to take down all the righteous Jews or Israelites or priests that was for the law, that want to be about the Most High's business, about the Most High's doing the Most High's will. He didn't want those. Those are the ones he was trying to kill and so forth. So a lot of our people had to flee into the mountains and so forth and hide, like Maccabees and so forth, family and stuff. Continue.
Verse 12. For he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection, and made them wear a hat.
So it's interesting too. He made them wear a hat. It's interesting too. Every time you see any pro athletes, right? whether it's basketball, football, baseball, when they get signed, what do they put on? The team hats. This is where it's coming from.
That's Bible.
Wow.
Continue.
Verse 13. Now was such the height of the Greeks' fashion, an increase of heathenish manners, through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch, and no high priest.
He ain't no high priest. Because if he was a high priest, he would have followed after the laws and told the people, we'd rather die than to bow down to you Greek gods. That's what a real high priest would have done. But this wretched snake, right? The scripture, the Bible said, an ungodly wretch, wretched, right? So that's why when you fast forward into Christ's time, think about the Pharisees. Think about the Sadducees. These are their descendants. These are their forefathers. These are the forefathers of the Pharisees in the time of Christ, loving to be under Rome. So think about how they got into that power, just like how these high priests got into power under the Greek control. They bribed their way there. We will force Greek ways on our people. Imagine how the Romans did when they had power over Israel, how those high priests came into power and how the Romans allowed them to be in power. They had to be sellouts. And that's why they was teaching traditions of men and not the commandments of God. Right? This is a lot of history we got to know before we get into that New Testament. There's a lot of history. This is damn near 400 years of history missing outside the Bible, which is called the Apocrypha. We need this history in order to understand or to go forth from this proper prophecy of the Babylon, Medo-Persian, the Greeks, then the Romans. We can't just deal with, if the Bible, Daniel's 11 is dealing with the Greeks. You see how Daniel's 11 going hand in hand with First Maccabees and Second Maccabees? Goes hand in hand. Without First Maccabees and Second Maccabees, you would be clueless. How would you know who these people, who's the king of the south? Who's the king of the north? I don't know. But guess what? Maccabees tells you who these people are, right? Which lines up with what? History. Let's continue. What verse we at?
14. That the priest had no courage to serve anymore at the altar.
Oh my gosh. Check this out, family. Continue.
But despising the temple and neglecting the sacrifices, hastened to be partakers of the unlawful allowance in the place of exercise.
To be partaker in all this wickedness. Continue.
After the game of Dicus called them forth, not setting by honors of their fathers, but liking the glory of the Grecians best of all.
So they would prefer to be Greeks, Hellenist Jews, instead of being real Jews. The Hebrews way. Continue.
Verse 16, by reason whereof sore calamity came upon them, for they had them to be their enemies and avengers, whose customs they followed so earnestly, and unto whom they desired to be like in all things. For it is not a light thing to do wickedly against the laws of God, but the time following shall declare these things.
So family, our people did not care about following the ways of the Most High. These priests, which are supposed to know better, they ran to do wickedness. They took off those holy garments. They put on those Greek costumes and they loved it. This ain't no, this is willfully doing it. This is willfully sinning. They knew better. They're the priests. And they willfully and gladly did it. And we're shocked today, 2021, of our people gladly not coming to the knowledge of faith, knowledge of truth. We're surprised that there's only a remnant that the Bible says is going to be saved. We're surprised that only many are called, but only a few going to be chosen. We're surprised now? No, these are the priests. They're supposed to know better. And they're doing wickedness. So imagine if the priest is telling the people to do wicked. Imagine the other young people that's supposed to look up to the priest, what they're going to do. Monkey see, monkey do. They're going to follow the priest. This is crazy, family. Let's go back to Daniel's 11.
Daniel's 11, verse 29. At the time appointed, he shall return and come towards the south, but it shall not be as the former or as the latter. For the ships of Chittim shall come.
The ships of who?
Chittim.
Y'all know where that at? What is the location of that today? Chittim. Rome. The ships of Chittim. It's referring to Rome. Go ahead.
Shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return, and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them that forsook the holy covenant.
So Antiochus Epiphanes returned from Egypt, bitter from defeat. Egypt received help from who? Which is the Romans. So the king got mad, and so because the Romans helped Egypt, he took his anger out on Israel, the Jews, and killed many Jews that refused to join his Greek religion. And he gave benefits to the Jews that accepted his religion. You want to be high priest? Okay, follow my way. You want to be this? You want to be a governor of Israel? You want to be a leader of Israel? You want to be a captain? You want to be a soldier? Come join the Greek way. And that's how all these wicked people and their descendants got set up during the time of Christ. Let's go to 2 Maccabees chapter 5. Check this out. 2 Maccabees chapter 5. Yeah, right there. 2 Maccabees. A lot of history, family. A lot of history. 2 Maccabees chapter 5, verse 11 through 14. And then we're going to jump a little bit.
The book of 2 Maccabees in the Apocrypha, chapter 5, verse 11. Now when this was done, came to the king's ear. Now when this that was done came to the king's ear, he thought that Judea had revolted. Whereupon, removing out of Egypt in a furious mind, he took the city by force of arms.
So he removed out of Egypt with a furious mind. He was mad because he lost to Egypt because the Romans, he wasn't expecting the Romans to come down and help. So he was mad. What did he do?
And commanded his men of war not to spare such as they met, and to slay such as they went upon the houses. Thus there was killing of young and old, making away of men, women, and children, slaying of virgins and infants. And there were destroyed within the space of 3 whole days.
How many Jews did they kill?
80,000.
80,000 got killed.
Whereof 40,000 were slain in the conflict. No fewer sold than slain.
Now jump down to verse 21 to 26. So he lost to Egypt, he got mad, and he took his anger out on Israel. Jump down to verse 21 to 26, my queen.
So when Antiochus had carried out of the temple 1,800 talents, he departed into all haste unto Antiochia, weening in his pride to make the land navigable, and the sea passable by foot. Such was the happiness of his mind.
So he's very prideful right now, right? Check this out.
Verse 22, and he left the governors to vex the nation.
So now he leaves governors. He's setting up governors in Jerusalem to vex the nation. Go ahead.
At Jerusalem, Philip, for his country, Aphican.
So he set up people of his own country. Go ahead.
And for manner more barbarous than he that set him there. And at Gerizim, Andronicus, and besides Menelaus, who's worse than all the rest.
So check out Menelaus, right? He's worse than all the rest. What nation was he? Go ahead.
Who was worse than all the rest, bore a heavy hand over the citizens, having a malicious mind against the countrymen of the Jews.
So this man was the worst of them all, and he had a malicious mind towards the Jews. Go ahead. This is his own people. He was worse than the heathens. Go ahead.
He sent also the detestable ringleader Apollonius with an army of 20,000, commanding him to slay all those that were in their best age, and sell the woman and the younger sort, who coming to Jerusalem and pretending peace.
So they came to Jerusalem in peace. Check this out.
Did forbear till the holy day of the Sabbath.
They went to the Sabbath. Go ahead.
When taking of the Jews keeping holy day, he commanded his men to arm themselves.
So on the Sabbath day, when our people keep in Shabbat, the enemies always attacked on the Shabbat for the Jews. If you know anything about the history of all the different empires, not just the Greeks. Check this out, verse 26.
And so he slew all them that were gone to the celebrating of the Sabbath, and running through the city with weapons, slew great multitudes.
So he slew all those that kept the laws of the Most High. And then verse 27 talks about how Judas Maccabeus and all them and 9 others, they fled into the wilderness and they lived in the mountains. So they hide, right? They had to retreat. Let's go back to Daniel's 11.
Daniel's 11 and 31. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate.
So we don't have to get it, family, because we got it before. What did King Antiochus Epiphanes set up in the temple? What god? Anybody remember? We talked about it maybe a month ago when we covered Daniel's. Think about a Greek god. Zeus, also known as like Jupiter and Zeus is supposed to be equal. Jupiter is the Roman version of the Greek Zeus, right? So when you go to 2 Maccabees chapter 6, we're not going to get it, or you want to just get part of it?
I'm gonna just get.
Yeah, just get part of it. So Antiochus Epiphanes, this is what he did. So 2 Maccabees 6.
2 Maccabees 6, verse 2. And to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius.
So it ain't the holy temple, ain't Mount Zion no more. It's the Jupiter of Olympian, right?
Verse 5. The altar also was filled with profane things, which the law forbiddeth. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days, or ancient feasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew.
You couldn't claim to be a Jew at that time. So many people, because they was afraid, they said, I'm a Greek. I'm a Greek. I'm afraid. I'm not a Jew no more. I'm a Greek. I'm not a Jew. I'm American. I'm a Black American. I'm not a Jew no more. I'm Jamaican. I'm not a Jew no more. I'm Canadian. I'm not a Jew no more. I'm Grenadian. Y'all get the drift? Our people don't want to be called Jews no more. It's like a scared thing. Oh, sure, I'm American. I'm Canadian, right? So Antiochus Epiphanes, this wicked man set up Zeus at the temple altar, and he demanded sacrifice to that image. And also he made pig sacrifices in the temple. And they was doing all type of orgies inside the temple, family. That's crazy. Think about it. They was doing all type of wickedness. Now let's get to verse 32.
Daniel's 11, verse 32. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame, by captivity and by spoil many days. So
Antiochus Epiphanes used deceit to divide the Jews. So some forsook their covenant with God and embraced their Greek culture. Then you had the Maccabee family, which led the people and who kept the commandments and made a stand up for righteousness. So many Jews died for their faith. Because of this, 80,000 Jews were killed, 40,000 Jews was put in prison, and 40,000 Jews was sold into slavery. That's crazy. So you had, not all our people wanted to be called Greeks. Some of our people rather die and stand up for righteousness' sake and fought and fight the enemy instead of join them, right? Let's go down to read verse 35 again.
Verse 33. And that.
Oh, 33, I mean, sorry.
And they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword and by flame, by captivity and by spoil many days.
And if you read about like the Maccabees and so forth, and Maccabeus, known as the Hammer, he died. You see what I'm saying? And his brothers died fighting war against the Greeks. And these was righteous men. And he only wanted to have in his army those that did the commandments. He's like, all those that want to keep the commandments, come rock. Just finish.
Mm-hmm.
Feast of Simon, also Hanukkah. They all go hand in hand, right? Continue.
Verse 34. Now when they shall fall, they shall be helped with a little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries.
So the Israelites received a little help from the heavens, right? If you go to second, we're not gonna have to get it, but in Second Maccabees chapter 10, you will go into how the angels came down from heaven. When Maccabeus, first he slaughtered a lot of the Jews that was traitors. He killed them first. Get them out the way. They worse than the enemy. So he killed the traitors amongst the Jews, slaughtered them. What? You sold your brothers for money? He killed them, right? Then he took back over the castles and so forth. You had our people that we was fighting wars with the other nations, even Edom or Idumea, which is Edom, were trying to come up a war against us as well from the and they was capturing people that was trying to escape, just like during the time of Babylon. And so Maccabeus fighting against Edom and fighting against these other nations, they prayed to the Most High. They put sackcloth on, they put ashes up on their head, and they prayed that the Lord would give them a little help. And then angels came down from heaven, and they helped, and they slaughtered hundreds and thousands of people. So they received that help. Also, too, you had other nations willing to help the Jews, but it was for, what does the scripture say for 34?
Now when they shall fall, they shall be helped with a little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries.
So many of them was going to cleave to them. They was going to be very deceitful. Oh, I got your back. I help you. So when you read about in Maccabees and so forth, you know that the Romans helped the Jews. But guess what? The Romans helped the Jews, but it was all for their own gain. Because after the Jews helped the Romans defeat the Greeks,
What happened?
what happened? Slavery. So that's why when you go into the New Testament, guess what? Who's in control over Jerusalem?
Romans.
Rome. Was they treating the Jews good?
No.
No. So guess what? The same people we help was the same people that turned against us and enslaved us. Never trust thy enemy. We keep on repeating. And the crazy thing about it, too, brothers and sisters, you had Jews fighting with the Romans against the Greeks, but then you had Jews helping the Greeks. So the Greeks had Jews, and then the Romans had Jews, and they're warring against each other. Don't make no sense. So now they're trying to say, okay, which culture is the best? Is it Roman culture or is it Greek culture? Those that side with the Greeks, that wanted to follow Greek culture, they fought with the Greeks. Those that wanted to side with the Romans, the wicked ones of our people that want to side with the Romans, they side with the Romans, and so forth. So they put us into slavery. So let's go back to verse 35. So you had the Olympians, which is a place of exercise. It's called the Olympians, right? Does that sound familiar? The Olympians. Oh, the Olympics. Running. What they doing?
Running.
In front of who? Thousands of people that want to come see the slaves run. Who can run the fastest?
Yeah.
Who can throw the ball
The farthest.
the farthest? Who can jump the highest? Who can be the strongest? All of these Olympics and so forth goes all the way back to the Greek and how they used to put on those hats and how they used to only take the best of the best. That's why you have to train inside the gymnasium.
Yeah, the place of
You have to,
exercise.
the place of exercise. You got to train very hard so that you can make it to the Olympics. The Olympians. This is crazy, family. Y'all see this?
Mhm.
This is crazy. And our people, now, yes, it's a reward for doing that. They give them rewards. If you watch the movie Gladiator, that was our people that was fighting against the lions and tigers. They gave them a better food. They maybe gave them some women to devil and dabble with, right? But you're still a slave. You jump in the basketball, they give LeBron hundreds of millions of dollars, but you're still a slave. Because guess what? The majority of the audience is your slave master.
Mhm.
It's the descendants of the slave master. The majority, when you go into these basketball games, football, baseball, the majority of the people are white people.
Mhm.
They're looking at you as entertainment,
Mhm.
just like during the time of the Greeks. You're entertainment for them.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
all. Wow. Did you see LeBron jump? Oh my gosh. He's so athletic. You
Make
see?
bets.
Huh?
They make bets.
They make right? He's so amazing. Wow. You see Usain Bolt run? His forefathers used to run away too. That's why they call them the maroons. Because the maroons means run away. You see? He's running away. That's what they do. They talk about it. You best believe. They laughing at our people. They give us a few $1 million endorsement. Ain't nothing. They're making billions of dollars off of you. You know?
Even the news reporter who told
Yeah, take it back.
told LeBron to shut up and dribble. Remember that?
Yeah, they're good. They say shut up and dribble. Yeah, exactly. You wasn't paid to be a talker. What are you talking about? Black Lives Matter. We didn't pay you for that. We paid for you to dribble and shut up. Dribble the ball. Exactly, right?
Exactly.
It's crazy. What verse we at?
35.
Okay, let's go back. Let's try 35. A lot of history, family.
10 more verses.
Almost done.
Okay, 35. And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them and to purge them and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed.
So pretty much, family, many righteous people will die for their faith to be the perfect example to the lost Jews, and to pretty much don't give up, don't convert yourself to a Greek God.
Mhm.
So the righteous, you have righteous leaders gave their life so that they can be a perfect example to the lost. And then that can turn other people that, and once they hear that story, dang, what's it called? Die? He's such and such age. And that can make other brothers and sisters that chose to follow the Greeks to repent and to turn to white, meaning pure, turn back to righteousness. So there's an example of that in the book of Second Maccabees. Let's just jump a little bit with it. Second Maccabees chapter 6. There's an example. We're gonna jump a bit. So Second Maccabees chapter 6. We're gonna start verse 18, then we're gonna jump a bit.
The book of Second Maccabees in the Apocrypha, chapter 6, verse 18. Eleazar, one of the principal scribes, an aged man and of a well-favored countenance, was constrained to open his mouth and to eat swine's flesh.
So they want to eat that good old pork, right? That good old pork chop. It's okay to eat it. It's slave food. That's what they're feeding us, right? The Bible tells us not to eat these things. But he was told just to eat this. Open your mouth. Just eat this pork. Go ahead.
But he, choosing rather to die gloriously than to live stained with such an abomination, spit it forth, and it came out of his own according to the torment.
Now, so pretty much, we're not going to read all of it. So pretty much this man chose rather to die than to eat this pork. Jump down to verse 31, the last verse.
And thus this man died, leaving his death for an example of a noble courage and a memorial of virtue, not only to young men, but unto all his nation.
So this righteous man wanted to be a perfect example so that the younger man and his rest of his nations can follow suit. You understand that? Now let's go back to Daniel's chapter 11 and read verse 35 again.
And some of them of understanding
Meaning
shall
some
fall.
of them of understanding, some of them that are wise men, some of them that are great, that are righteous, shall fall, shall die. Go ahead.
To try them and to purge and to make them white, even to the end of time,
So
because it is yet for a time
So
appointed.
they died to make our nation white, meaning pure, to return them back to repentance, so that they can hear their story and say, "What? Shoot, what's going 90 years old and he did it? Man, we got to man up. We got to woman up. We got to be stronger than this. We can't follow these Greek ways. Let's do what our forefathers did." And some of our people did repent and left that Greek way and got back to keeping God's commandments. Let's continue.
And the king, verse 36, shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the gods of gods, against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done.
So Antiochus Epiphanes, he made coins, right? Each kings and stuff and rulers throughout the day, they set their face upon the coin. So King Antiochus Epiphanes, he had a coin which was inscribed with the title Theos Epiphanes, meaning God manifests or God in the flesh. He put that on the coin. So he's pretty much saying he is above the God of the gods. He's the God. Right, so if he made statues of Zeus and Jupiter and these other Olympians and so forth, he's making a statue of it, and he's saying he's God manifest or God in the flesh. He's pretty much saying he's those gods. He's not the statue version. He's in the flesh, right? So let's continue.
Verse 37, neither shall he regard the gods of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all.
So the God that he was concerned about was himself, right? Continue.
Verse 38, but in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God of whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and with pleasant things.
So he's pretty much trying to worship himself, right? Because he believed he's God in the flesh. When you look at the history of like Seleucus the First, was the first king of the Seleucus dynasty, they was really worshiping like Babylonian gods and so forth. They wasn't really into Zeus like that. You see what I'm saying? They was more into Babylonian gods and so forth. So he took part in setting up Zeus, which is pretty much supposed to represent him because he's God manifest. He's God in the flesh, right? So he's given honor to Zeus, who's pretty much given honor to himself, right? Continue.
Verse 39, thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain.
So all those that chose to worship his God, worship him, he gave them benefits, like we read in Maccabees. Continue.
Verse 39, 40. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over.
So warring again, the north against the south. Remind you, 175 years of killing and warring against each other. Go ahead, trying to take over the land of Israel. Continue.
He shall enter into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown.
So it's pretty much just giving you a recap now. So he did enter into the glorious land. We know that, right? He did take over Jerusalem and set up an abomination of desolation, right? Continue.
But these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab and the chief of the children of Ammon.
Why? Because we read how in Maccabees and so forth, when Second Maccabees 10, they was making alliances with Edom, Moab, and Ammon. So the Seleucid dynasty pretty much hired them to fight against the Jews. So that's why when we read Second Maccabees 10, and when Judas Maccabeus prayed, because he needed help, because all these alliances, all these empires is trying to fight up against them, and that's when the angels came to help the Israelites, because these other nations was helping the Seleucid dynasty. Continue.
Verse 42, he shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape.
Which we read that in First Maccabees chapter 1, how he took over Egypt, right? Continue.
But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver, and over the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his step.
So now, because remind you, Ptolemy had control over Egypt and the surrounding area, which Cush and which is Ethiopia and Lydia, all these places is northeast Africa, right? So he had control over that. So when he conquered Egypt, he took over those other neighbors as well. Continue.
Verse 44, but tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and utterly make away many.
So pretty much, like I said, in 168 BC, Antiochus led a second attack on Egypt and also sent a fleet to capture Cyprus. So before reaching Alexandria, which is in Egypt, his path was blocked by that Roman ambassador named Gaius, who delivered a message from the Roman senator directing Antiochus to withdraw his armies from Egypt or consider himself at war with the Roman Republic. And so that was the news from the north. So he's hearing the Romans like, no, you got to come out of Egypt. Either you come out or we're going to go to war with you. And the Roman Republic, that's a big army, right? So you also had news from the east. What kingdom came from the east? You had the Parthians Empire. They also rebelled against him from the east. And also the Jews had defeated Antiochus Epiphanes' armies that was in Jerusalem. So he had problems in Jerusalem. Now the Romans is threatening him, yo, if you don't leave Egypt alone, you're going to have problems with us. And now you had the Parthians, which is supposed to be under them, which is in modern day Iran, Iraq, Syria. They were supposed to be in subjection under the Seleucid dynasty. Now they're rebelling against his authority and they're saying no. So now they're from the east, they're warring up against the Seleucids or Antiochus Epiphanes. So this made Antiochus Epiphanes, which heard all these news from the north, from the east, and from the pleasant land, which is Jerusalem. So he fled on ship to the coastal cities where he fell sick and died. Pretty much the Most High killed him. We read about that, right? And you can read about the death of Antiochus Epiphanes in 2 Maccabees chapter 9, verse 5 through 9, where he stunk so bad, nobody wanted to be around him. Y'all remember about that? Continue, my queen.
Verse 45, and he shall plant the tabernacle of his palace between the seas and his glorious holy mountain.
So that's where he went to go hide back. He went back to the coastal region, right? He went to go hide, and that's where he died. Go ahead.
And yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him.
And nobody will be able to help him because he stunk so bad. Everybody refused to help him, right? It was like, yo, this man, you smell bad. We don't want to be around you. And so he died in his land, right? In the coastal cities. So that's Daniel chapter 11, family. A lot of history, family. But like I said earlier, Daniel's 11, it's only 45 verses. But this is just a summary of First Maccabees and Second Maccabees. Okay? So we like to give all praises to Abinawa, Yahweh, Bahashem, Hamashiach Yahushua. So I pray brothers and sisters got edified. We went through a lot of history. Next week, Most High willing, we will finish the book of Daniel. All praises to the Most High. Finish the book of Daniel, man. A lot of history. But we finally about to get through it. All praise to the Most High. So I pray everybody have a wonderful Sabbath. Stay strong. Continue to endure. We love y'all. Till next time. Shalom, family.